There's a ton of people at Ivy League colleges that are not remotely academically qualified to be there. And if you're a regular person just hearing about this, that probably comes as a bit of a shock because Ivy League schools go out of their way to market their students as the best and the brightest of everybody. Meanwhile, the reality is actually a lot more complicated. There's about 20% of the kids at Ivy League schools that are legitimate geniuses. About half of them are what you would consider very, very bright people. But there's also a very big chunk of them that got in for reasons that have nothing to do with academics. For example, recruited athletes will often get into Ivy League schools with SAT scores in the low 1200s with, everybody else thinking that they have to get a 1500 plus just to make the cut. And then there's the children of legacies, donors. There's a million other ways that you can get into Ivy League schools that have nothing to do with your academics. And if you're getting in on one of those bases, you're bringing down the average for everybody else. These are the people who are complaining the loudest about the new restrictions on GPA at places like Harvard, because honestly, they were getting way too lax with the grading. And honestly, if this comes as a real surprise to you, I want you guys to consider that for the past 5 years until this past cycle, most of these Ivies were not even requiring the SAT. And the reason they brought back the SAT requirement is that they realized, and they all were very open about this, by the way, the president of Dartmouth wrote a whole op-ed explaining this, that Dartmouth ended up admitting a bunch of unqualified students who are currently at Dartmouth. These are all current Dartmouth students who got in during COVID, during test optional. They're not qualified to be there, and they had to create remedial classes at these Ivy League colleges for the first time in like 400 years, specifically for these students. So when you guys see that they're tightening the standards, they want to reduce the number of A's, they want to increase the admission standards in academics, this is why. Because if these colleges are not careful about policing the kind of people they accept and also holding their students to super high academic standards, that whole reputation they've worked so many centuries to develop of their students being the best and the brightest is about to go out the window.